Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to make techno drums. I'm going to be really showing you what goes on and everything that you need to do to make these drums. You know, it's not just about having a rumble kick with a few hi-hats over top of it, but there's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot of small kind of under the surface stuff that I'm going to be showing you guys today. We're going to be going from scratch and using some samples that I've made to make some really powerful and strong techno drums and show you how to make drums that are going to stand out in a mix with other tracks and really sound full and huge and not just be like a little tiny kick with some hi-hats over top of it, but a really powerful track that is going to stand out and get your tracks signed to all the labels you want to get signed to. Now, to go along with this video, I just dropped a new sample pack. It's called Definitive Techno Drum Loops Volume 3. This is my new collection of 10 drum loops. As you can see, you get each drum loop with the individual sounds as loops that you can work with on your own. I'll play you a few of these as well. You can see some of them even have synths in there. And yeah, this really gives you a nice library to work from with these types of drums because you're getting all the different stuff, you know, so you can quickly drop in like a nice kick and some nice hi-hats. But there's also a lot of the little background stuff that I'm going to be talking about in here as well. So it really gives you everything you need to make powerful, strong drums that are going to work really well and get your tracks signed, like I said. And also with the pack, you get 10 free bonus cosmic techno melodies. Plus my new ultimate fattening rack for Ableton, which works in Live 9 and Live 10. So you really get everything in here to make just a really nice, powerful techno track that's going to work really well. And yeah, the link to that is right at the top of the description. It's a really great way to support me. I don't make a whole lot off of YouTube, but with these sample packs and stuff, you guys can support me, as well as just getting a really dope production resource. Like I said, I really think this is one of the best packs I've ever made, and it's got some really solid stuff. And yeah, I look forward to hearing these in your tracks, guys. The link to that is at the top of the description. I'm going to be using this to show you everything that goes on with these drums today. And yeah, so let's dive in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this up to 128 BPM. And the way I always start when I'm making really any techno track, not just like making the drums, but really just making a track in general, is with the kick and with the low end. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to take a kick. Like, let's grab... Let's take this kick. And then we'll grab a rumble as well. So I'll get one from... Yeah, that one sounds cool. So right off the bat, you can hear with this rumble, there's a lot of rhythm happening there. You know, it's not just like vroom, 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 but it's like boo-doo, doo-boo-doo. So already, right off the bat, just with the most basic elements, the bass and the kick, we're getting a lot of groove, and already like the rhythm for the track is kind of being set. So that's the first real secret I want to talk about is, you know, using a rumble that's just doom, doom, doom. That sounds good in some tracks, but I definitely recommend trying something a bit more rhythmic like this one, where again, already we're getting so much groove and so much happening in the track. Just with the low end being the kick and the bass together. So that's the first thing, is I always like to start with those two, and I'll usually put those in a little group together as well, and we'll drop this fattening rack on. And this is just really good because what you want to typically do is not just have your kick and bass playing side by side, but you really need to try to glue them together using some type of processing. That's what's really gonna make your track sound full, you know? So we'll take this, I'll turn off this boom for now, we'll turn the drive down. And there we go, so we have a really fat, powerful kick here. So that's the first thing, is starting with nice kick and nice low end that has some rhythm to it already. The next thing here is going to be adding some sort of like movement on top of this in the low end. And how this comes is usually, there's a few different ways you can do it. What I like to do is take like one of these kind of sounds. Just like that little tiny like, that's like very much in the low end. There's a few others in here, like let's get one from one of the other kits. Like something like that, maybe. Let's see this other one here. Yeah, let's take that one. So that's just literally going like, ba-doom, boom. And there we go. So again, like, this is all really just the kick. Like, if you're listening to this track, you're still really just hearing the kick and the bass. But there's so much happening there, because now there's the rumble doing its own little groove, and we have just like little boom, boom over top of it, which is really in the low end. And yeah, it's all about saying more with less. Like, if you can make just your bass and your kick groove this much, that's great, because you're going to have to add that much less percussion and that much less stuff on top. Like, with these tracks, it's really about just optimizing a few elements rather than, like, you know, having 5 percussion loops playing to give it the groove that you can really just get out of just your kick and your bass. So that's the first thing. It's just making sure, like, your bass and your kick aren't flat. Like, having something like this to really bring it to life. So the next place I would go from here is to start bringing in some hi-hats. You know, I like to work from the most basic elements up. So like we started with the kick, and then we brought in the bass, and then we added in the bass groove. Now that we have that, we're going to start with the hi-hats. And again, we're just going to start with simple, like, I'll take this hi-hat, just playing on the upbeats. Yeah, that's a pretty obvious layer. We'll also add in some, like, closed hi-hats. I like these ones. So we'll take those. You'll notice with this too, like, it's not just one hi-hat going tick-tick. It's 2 different sounds. So it's very dynamic, because underneath all this stuff, you're getting, on top of like all the movement that's happening with everything else, you're getting like that kind of aggressiveness of jumping between the 2 samples. There we go. And then I usually try to like mix it a little bit so that these are a little bit quieter than the main hi-hat. Because like if you just have them right up there, then that main hi-hat doesn't have as much impact to it. But if you kind of bring these back a little, then that it sounds really fat. And also it's like the types of hi-hats you're choosing too. Like if you listen to this hi-hat, it's mostly in the mid-range. Like it's really just like very fat and mid-rangey like that. And I think that works really well in the style versus having something that might be like more like just a tss. It's gonna sound kind of thin, but this is just really fat and full. And yeah, so then once we have those layers, again, those are the most basic layers. Like, those are the things, if you think about a techno track on just the most surface level, those are the most basic things. From there, we can start to add some more stuff to accentuate this. And this is where I think the unique flair comes in. Like, if you're trying to make tracks that sound unique and sound like you and don't just sound like you copying, like, someone else, it's really going to come with, like, the extra stuff. Because every track has a kick. Every track has a rumble. Every track has, you know, these hi-hats, but then the stuff kind of in between the lines there is where you can really get unique. So what I'll do is I'll go through here, and usually I like to bring in like something like this, where, you know, it kind of just fits in. Like if you listen to this, it's really just sort of doing like what those closed hi-hats are doing. But you can hear so much texture here because, like, I mean, I was the one that made this loop, so I know what's happening here. But it's like you have that noise going. Plus, you have the percussion going. It's like call and response happening, plus that white noise on top. And it's really just with, like, one thing. But you can hear how much this is now going to add to the mix. Plus, keep in mind you're getting the interplay between this and like this element. And even how the rumble's going doom, 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 doom. So it's about really making like every element talk to each other as well, like, and not just having like a bunch of stuff just for the sake of having it, but having a bunch of stuff that's gonna complement each other. And then you don't want to go too overboard with the percussions, but I'll usually have another layer of it of some sort, like maybe bringing in something like one of these. That's another one of those sort of like shaky percussions. Yeah, let's use that one. So now we have percussion that's happening the whole way through, like just constantly, and we have some percussion that just kind of comes in and out. And if you look, this is happening kind of irregularly as well, because it's not just happening, like we could just have it reset after 4 bars to where like every single time it restarts, you know you're going to get this percussion there and this one there. But if you look at this, you see how we get those two, and then it's kind of irregular because it doesn't happen again until halfway between bar 7 and 8. That's another thing to keep in mind, you know, making sure that it's not just like kind of predictable, I guess you could say, like making it kind of feel a little bit more alive, because techno is all about stuff over time. You know, you're hearing this very repetitive loop for a long period of time. And so if you can have something like this that's kind of breaking it up and happening not just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, but kind of like restarting a bit more irregularly, you can really create a lot more interest in your track, and it's just going to create a lot more depth. And yeah, so you can hear, you know, we have a lot happening now. Without it being too much, there's still a lot of room to add melodies or to add different, you know, sounds on top of this. However, you might add other stuff to your track. But this is a pretty complex groove with only a few elements. There's still only 8 elements here. And that's the idea. Again, if you really go through and like, you know, try to really optimize it, like making sure a lot of groove is happening in your low end so that you don't have to use extra percussion loops, and making sure that like everything is kind of talking to each other, like I was saying. You're not really going to have too much stuff, because just these basic elements are going to tell the whole story. Now the last thing that I think is pretty important to add also is some type of like effects happening just every now and then. So I have some in here, which I'll grab. Just something kind of like this. Just like that little like and stuff like that, you know. Again, this kind of goes back to what I was saying with the filter percussion. Like, it's just something that's happening a bit irregularly. You can see it happens right here, but then the next time it comes in, it happens here. So it's kind of like just giving something that the listener isn't necessarily expecting to really accentuate the drums. And I do consider this part of the drums, you know. Like, obviously, like, there's a lot of other effects you're going to use in your track, like sweeps and noise and all that kind of stuff. But this stuff is really part of the percussion and the groove. Because, like, you know, if we take out this stuff and we just have, like, super loopy stuff, as good as this is, you know, it's missing a certain element of depth. So that's what these effects are going to do. And yeah, now we have a pretty nice little drum section, and then we can bring in, like, a melody. Like, let's use this one. And there we go. You can see it fills out the track so that now we just bring in either a melody or whatever you're using for your sort of like melodic thing. Like, it might not always be a synth melody. It might be like some crazy robot sound. Of course, this is techno. But just something and it's going to fit really well over top of all this stuff. You're going to have a nice groove that is doing a lot on its own, but it's not going to take away from whatever your main element is, but it's going to stay very interesting and exciting in the track. And yeah, so that's going to be it for this one, guys. Like I said, that is how you make techno drums and all the little secrets I've picked up on to not just make like a rumble kick with some hi-hats, but really make a powerful track that is exciting and captivates the listener and is going to sound really professional and new as well, you know? Like, again, like if everybody just does over and over, I mean, it can only go so far, but if you start doing stuff like this and really trying to bring your drums to life, you can make something really exciting that can transcend beyond that. So yeah, that's me for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the new pack, Definitive Techno Drum Loops Volume 3, right at the top of the description on my Bandcamp. This is a really great way to support me if you guys are enjoying these videos. As you can see in the video, all the samples I've used, this is really like one of the best techno drum sample packs on the market that I've seen, at least. Definitely one of the best ones I've ever made, and it can give you some really great stuff to make your tracks exciting and just get some new inspiration to make really cool, powerful sounding tracks. Link to that's right at the top of the description. Again, thank you so much for the support, guys. Not making a whole lot with YouTube, but with this, I'm able to keep going and keep bringing you guys new tips and new techno every day. So yeah, that's going to be it for this one. Thank you so much, everybody, for all the support, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.